Hello there, my name's Card. I'm a long-time progressive community organiser and activist. And here on my YouTube page, I like to make simple little videos talking about things that interest me. And today, I just want to share some thoughts about the American conservative political commentator, Ben Shapiro. I'm sure if you're ever watching this video, you already basically know who he is. And you'll also likely know that a lot of people have spent a great deal of their time responding to his talking points and debunking his political arguments and even debating him in person. All that sort of stuff is great and all, but there's only so far that can take you. Today, I just wanted to put a rhetorical question out there. A question I've always wanted to see put to Ben Shapiro, but as far as I can tell, no one's ever asked him it before. So, if no one else will, I'll ask. Why does Ben Shapiro wear that tiny hat? Maybe you haven't noticed before, because it's admittedly small and dark and kinda hard to see against his black hair, but Mr. Shapiro, in all his public and media appearances, throughout the entirety of his career, every time you see him, he's always got a small, brimless hat curiously perched on the back of his head. What's up with that? Of course, it would be facetious of me to pretend we don't know what that hat is. It's called a yarmulke, or a kippah, and it's a type of skull cap ritualistically worn primarily by Orthodox Jews. Now, I'm perfectly happy to take conversations about religious and cultural precepts seriously. I really do think it's one of the great things about the sociological side of the humanities is how much wiggle room we've got to justify and intellectualize abstract philosophical and theoretical ideas. But funnily enough, Ben Shapiro himself doesn't do that sort of thing. He talks about and argues with people about sociological ideas and concepts all the time. It's what he's made his career off of. But Shapiro very decidedly rejects that sort of philosophical sociology where you play around with definitions and semantics to make a point. What's his famous catchphrase? Facts don't care about your feelings. And there's admittedly nothing intrinsically wrong with taking that sort of approach to life, necessarily. Personally, I think it's the wrong way to look at things. But hey, everyone's allowed to choose a school of thought. Where I do start to have a problem with people who take that sort of attitude, however, is when they only apply that facts don't care about your feelings style hardline empiricism selectively. And that's something Ben Shapiro definitely does. See, he goes out and debates first-year college kids and says stuff like, why should we help homeless people? It's not rational. And I'm going to refer to trans people by their biological pronouns because science says XY chromosomes man, XX chromosomes woman. He's taking this firm, unsociological approach to social issues. And again, plenty of my fellow lefties out there have made all the counter-arguments to everything he says and why ignoring social nuance is bad and leads to all sorts of worse outcomes for people in practice. But honestly, I think even responding to him seriously is kind of giving him too much credit in a way. Are we supposed to pretend that Mr. Facts and Logic has an empirical reason for wearing his little kippah? Why has no one ever just asked him right to his face why he's got the hat on? If we were all being perfectly good faith about things, I'd be more than happy to engage in any sort of respectful conversation about the social value of traditions and customs. But he wants to make a partisan argument over everything. So let's be real here. All of the grand mythology and symbolic rituals and practices of that Judaism Mr. Shapiro adheres to is all made up. It's all nonsense. The Torah, the Talmud, the Siddur, the Kabbalah, these are stories. They're not true. They're fake. That's just the fact of the matter. There is no God that has told Ben Shapiro to wear that tiny hat, or told him not to eat pork, or told him to presumably cut off his son's foreskin. Sorry to come across like an edgy Reddit atheist, but it's true. There isn't any God, Abrahamic or otherwise, watching over you or I or Ben Shapiro. And if the likes of Mr. Shapiro essentially refuses to get along with people and refuses to engage with, for example, the sociological explanation for why trans people are their expressed gender, why do we have to pretend his made-up thing is real? For the sake of his political career, and to the ends of advancing and promoting very harmful reactionary policy and conservative public sentiment, Shapiro gets up every day to essentially say, no, gender roles are strictly biological, and no matter what you look like or do, you can't change those. But also, I think God specifically told me I need to cover the top of my head to appease him. Frankly, if Ben Shapiro had a shred of sincerity left in his body he wasn't willing to throw away for the sake of his career as a political pundit, he'd either drop all the bullshit, including his professed religious beliefs, or he'd keep his mouth shut about believing in non-empirically provable things for the sake of personal preference and social cohesion and just being courteous. Hey, if you ever happen to be one of the freshman uni students he drags out of a crowd to get some epic SJW cringe compilation B-roll debate owns in on, can you please be the hero that finally points squarely at his hat and reminds him that Yahweh is completely fake? That's a fact that doesn't care about his feelings. If reactionaries don't want to do the sociology dance around cultural norms and our progressive beliefs, why can't we just go mask off and refuse to play nicely back? I've had to deal with these sorts of people in real life enough by now that this is my go-to. I'm not even going to bother defending my beliefs to someone who's not going to engage with them at all. So plan B, I'm just going to intuit what the dumbest thing the other guy believes in and make fun of that. It's just something to consider. Anyway, if you want me to hear more from me, feel free to subscribe to this YouTube page or just take a look at my other videos. Either way, goodbye for now, and have a lovely day.